Hello fellow critics, welcome back to The Alley, the show that knows automatic doors open because of telekinesis. It's a strange day for some of us, and The Alley is no exception for strange things. In fact, we specialize in stranger things than you are used to. And Stranger Things is the topic today, because I love me some D&D themed shows. Especially when they make me wonder. And today, the thing that has me wondering is, dude, Will has powers. They might be latent and unexplored as of yet, but they're definitely there. Now let's review the evidence. From the start, Will has been a very different kid than the rest. He's always been sensitive and gentle. It's something that they mentioned from the very beginning of the show, literally episode 1. These are things that are said about people who usually have gifts in shows like this. Usually, children who are extra sensitive are the ones who have very vocal imaginary friends, the ones who can talk to shadows. Think of The Shining, Harry Potter, even baby Vecna was said to be a sensitive child. Each of those weirdos ended up having special powers because us weirdos were special. And the evidence is all around us. Especially for Will. It's been staring us in the face this whole time. So, just to give us some foundation, the show is heavily geared towards psionics as its superpower, you know, ESP psychic abilities. Super brain power. Whenever an ability is activated or there is a rogue flash of power, it affects the electrical circuits as we see. We see this constantly through the series as the big sign of, oh dang, it's about to get real. Alright, with that in mind, now watch this scene real quick.
See you tomorrow.
Interesting. Some of you will just say, well, that's the Demogorgon stalking Will. Is it though? We see a lot of situations where the Demogorgons come through and appear. And while yes, they do seem to be able to open some momentary rips in space-time, they don't have any ESP or psionic abilities, and they don't have a direct connection to the lights. And I think they might not even be able to open the gates on their own, per se. We're gonna come back to that later, though. Both the Demogorgons and the Mind Flayer have several instances where they're gallivanting around all rip-roaring and not a single electrical disturbance. We can usually connect 11 or Vecna to the occurrences that are happening with electricity because I strongly believe that Vecna is working consistently in tandem a lot more than we're ever told or really see. Just because we find out that he exists in season 4, we kind of also find out in the same breath that he's existed a lot longer than pretty much the rest of the cast of the show. So, I'm just saying that it's not a stretch to suggest that every time a Demogorgon tears his way through reality, Vecna isn't there just giving him a healthy little push. Or maybe every time the Mind Flayer starts getting really strong and powerful, Vecna's probably powering up with it and double teaming. And we can add Will to that list of people that make lights flicker around them, if you haven't already. You could argue that the scene with Jonathan and Nancy in the living room, you know, the one where Steve breaks in and the Demogorgon happens, but I would argue that that is actually Will warning them from the other side that the Demogorgon is about to rip his way through, because we know Will can manipulate the lights. Plus, if you were hunting something you were intending on feasting upon, you probably wouldn't flash the lights on and off like a 5-year-old. My money is on Will the Wise doing his best to help his friends from the upside down. If you remember, it took the entire teen squad to make that bulb glow enough, by the way. They all had to gather around it to really get it going, right? And Will got a bright shine when he was all alone. Sort of showing us that everyone can be capable while some will excel at things. We may not be in the upside down, or are we? But one thing is for sure, it gets crazy out there. Hit that subscribe button and join the Critic team. If we follow the lights together, then we'll find our way out of here. Remember when Will used the phone to call his mom? From the upside down. Not from the nurse's office, not from the arcade. Communicating through the static of the phone. Sound familiar? ESP phone home. Another huge piece of evidence, in my opinion, is the fact that Will can see the letters that his mom writes on the wall. In season 4, our killer queen Nancy wants to go back to her house while they're in the Upside Down so they can gear up, grab some guns, and face these horrifying bat creatures flying around everywhere. But all she finds is old memories, and the bikes that they've always had. Those end up being useful too. They realize this happens because the house reflection that exists on the other side exists in the exact time that it was created. Sort of how all those kids in Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children are stuck in that same exact day and time again and again. So the things stay as they were. So this means that Will's house echo is created when Will gets pulled through, which happens before Joyce draws any of the letters on the wall. Which brings about the question, how did Will see the letters before the mind flare took over his mind if he didn't already have some latent abilities that were probably pushed up and amplified from his recent trauma that he went through and is going through? And that throws the idea that Will got his powers from the mind flare out the window. Nope, had him the whole time, lying in wait. We see the only time people can see into the other world is when they actually enter it, or that one example where they can see each other through the portal that was created in Eddie's trailer. Will can do that with no portal. His eyes are the portals. Then we have the stuff that happens with the mind flare absorption. Before he's even taken by the hate tornado, he's able to see into the Upside Down in real time. Happens in the beginning of season 2. They call it true sight in the show, which is something none of the other characters seem to do. Even 11, the strongest one of them, has limited connections to the Upside Down from everything we've seen. Will is also the only character to spit out an interdimensional booger slug. If I had a loogie like that, I would keep it in a jar. That's freaking awesome! Once he becomes a vessel for the Shadow Spider, he gains the ability to sense the Upside Down creatures. You know, the magic Spidey sense he gets when the beasties are nearby? Which I think is close to his ability to see into Echo World and spit bugs, but it's kind of different for its own reasons. He retains this ability after the good guys defeat the scary silhouette. So, don't forget, he had the willpower to fight off the possession of the Mind Flare a couple times in the beginning, because that's how they found Hopper even. Intercepting the now memories, as he was calling them, is basically reading the big bad's mind. And that is an incredible feat. He could have died considering the atmosphere is toxic. Oh yeah, did I mention the atmosphere is toxic? And the only thing Will got was a booger buddy? Interesting how he did so well and poor Barb did not. Rest in power, you fantastic forgotten embodiment of a moral compass. Don't forget, he's in there much longer than Barb too. And they were both grabbed and pulled into the tentacle terrarium by shadow sharks. Why such different results? Even Hopper was choking after a short time of exposure. Will was there for how long? Curious. Season 3 seemed more interested in character development and priming the pumps for more mystery meat monster. You know, the team needed to grow. Will was able to sense the creature's presence, but you know, he doubts it from time to time. I think his powers come and go for the same reasons that 11's do, but you also have to consider that he never got any training for these things. He's basically bumping into his powers the same way the Scooby-Doo gang does. Now, as we sit on the precipice of the next half of season 4, I wonder if there will be any more strange happenings for young buyers. Or perhaps it'll be something they talk about in Stranger Things 5. It almost feels intentional that he's one of the only people not in Hawkins yet in season 4. I have a feeling that's going to change though. What I do know for sure though is the evidence that I've laid out is much more than a group of coincidences, and I really hope that we get to see Will join 11 in a psychic battle against some big bat. I don't even care. They can just tear apart a Demogorgon together and that would be cool to me. So maybe instead of focusing on what his romantic preference is, we can actually pay attention to the things that he does and has done. Because if you're too busy getting stuck up on all that nonsense, maybe getting chewed up by a Demogorgon isn't the worst fate. Will has a power a lot of us overlook. Empathy. He does his best to keep everyone sane during all the commotion of season 4. And he does all of that considering he has some very difficult personal struggles of his own to deal with. He carries them around daily and has hardly mentioned it. He continues to stand strong in his friend's time of need. Perhaps we should recognize that superpower more in ourselves and in others, and be a little more like Will Byers. Critically yours, The Fox.